Good evening, everyone. This is your other Team 9 meteorologist, Nathan Schott, joining you for this edition of Nate at 8. And we saw it today. Dreary, damp, cool coming to fruition, and it was just pretty occasional. We did even manage to muster some of that drizzle at times as well, and certainly less than ideal day across the Ohio Valley, but this was some much needed rain. And as dry as it's been since the end of July, I know today was quite dreary, but again, certainly needed for that rain across the area. And the good news is that this is just round one of two. We're going to track another round of some rain going into the weekend that delivers some more widespread rainfall amounts across the area as well. So we are tracking another round of rain. After that, it does turn mainly dry going through next week. So it's good that we're able to soak up some of this rain while it's here, because the overall dry pattern still likely continues. So we're going to dive into that for this edition of Nate at 8. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Good evening, Joe. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Nate at 8. And coming up, we're going to be discussing that dry weather returning tonight, but the big story tomorrow morning, not rain, but fog. And we're going to be dealing with some areas of fog, and I think certainly can be dense in spots. That, of course, reduces visibility, can slow you down a bit for tomorrow morning's commute. You may want to allow yourself a little extra time to get to your destination. And while most of Friday is going to be dry, by the evening and early Friday night is when we're likely tracking that next round moving into the area. So, of course, we'll dive into that with Futurecast. And overall, tomorrow, more similar with respect to yesterday, not today. We're getting back to around 80, mix of sun and clouds. Again, I think very similar to what we had for yesterday coming up for tomorrow. But by the time we get to the weekend, well, especially Saturday, more reminiscent of today. By Sunday, we spot more sun, but it does remain cool. So overall, a cool weekend, and those temperatures this weekend more similar to today. For tomorrow, more similar to yesterday. So if you liked the weather yesterday, you're in luck for Friday. If you like the cooler temperatures, you're in luck for the weekend. That's what we're going to be tracking returning. So quite a few things to discuss. Without further ado, let's jump into things. Our current temperatures right now across the area are into the 60s, and will likely fall back into the 50s tonight. And as temperatures drop and settled around the mid 50s is when we're going to be tracking that fog developing for the latter part of tonight. That high temperature going down is 66 degrees today at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. The last time we were below 70 degrees was on June 1st. So it's been some time. When at that point, the high was 63 degrees at the airport. Not quite that cool, but not far from it. But that was our last day where we saw a high temperature not reach 70, below 70. And that went down again today at 66 degrees. Last time it was on June 1st with a high of 63 degrees. The rain now making its exit. Just some couple lingering showers into very sliver there of Tyler as well as Wetzel County. We're going to be tracking some drier conditions overnight. We already spotted some clearing for this evening. Some welcoming sunshine greeting us here as we went into the sunset. And we're already starting to see some clearing that will just continue overnight as we'll dry back up and again stay dry likely for the vast majority of Friday. That being said, we look at what radar estimated for rainfall amounts, and Joe says barely got anything here in Bel Air, and you can see this reflected on radar estimated rainfall over the last 24 hours. You know, this is fairly widespread, but in terms of the pure amount of rain, it certainly varied. In Bel Air, one of those locations that you can see where radar estimated not too much rain, but you don't have to go too far south and north of Bel Air, and that's where rainfall amounts started to reach a lot more. Even radar estimated over an inch of rain in some locations, even upwards of an inch and a half of rain into a few locations there, where radar estimated into the northern part of Belmont, southeastern Harrison, and southern Jefferson County. You can see where the areas highlighted in that red, where radar estimated even some higher amounts, but other locations towards Tuscarawas, Carroll, you can see that into portions of Tuscarawas, Carroll County joining Bel Air, where the also estimating that's little or none. So some locations still not picking up that needed rain, but for a lot of locations, it was at least something, at least upwards of about a tenth to a quarter of an inch across a good portion of the area, if not more. So I know still some of us not too much, but for quite a bit of us, thankfully getting some of that needed rain across the area. And the good news is what we have coming up for tomorrow night could be similar with respect to what we had for today. So you can get a similar site where there can still be some locations where, it's a trace to a tenth of an inch, while there can be quite a few of us that pick up at least upwards of a quarter of an inch, and if not closer to a half of an inch. So we'll dive into those rainfall amounts, but it can be a similar story again for Friday night, where we can see, some fairly widespread rainfall amounts, but it can vary to some degree in terms of how much, actual rainfall amounts we do get. So I know not all of us, picking up a lot of rain, but certainly was good to see that rain in our area nonetheless. And it certainly helps, but I don't think quite eliminates the drought, which is now in effect. The latest drought monitor coming out today showing moderate drought conditions across the area. Now, last Thursday, we were abnormally dry across the area, and now most of the locations under a moderate drought. And again, the rain for today and the rain tomorrow night will help, but I don't think it's going to completely eliminate drought conditions. And with the dry pattern still in place for next week, it can just continue. It may delay the severity of this, right? I think this can certainly help us from going from moderate to severe drought in some locations, but to completely eliminate the drought across the area, I don't think today and in tomorrow night's rain's going to be enough to do that, as dry as it's been since the end of July and through August. But it certainly does help. It is good to see some of that rain for today, and again in the forecast for tomorrow night. Austin, good evening. Today was a cold, rainy, windy day. Certainly a bit of a breeze as well, Austin. Good to note. Yeah, we did have that breeze as well. Hoping that we can expect this kind of weather temperature for October and November. Our averages will start to fall into the 60s as we look ahead going into October, November. By the end of November, that average high even falls in the 40s. So yeah, this is more similar to the average temperatures that we do have going through October and into a portion of November with those highs in the 60s. Charlotte, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Mark says, I enjoy these shows. Well, thank you, Mark. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Nate at 8. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. You're welcome, Joe. And everyone, thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in to this edition of Nate at 8. So as we jump into our future cast, again, dry conditions likely hold into tomorrow morning. The one thing to watch for again for tomorrow, some areas of fog, and some of it can be dense. That can reduce, obviously, visibility, slow you down for tomorrow morning's commute. Just something to keep in mind. As we go for the drive home, still likely dry. So I don't think we're going to need that rain gear for tomorrow. When you will want to take it with you if you're heading out is for Friday evening. And yes, this is unfortunate timing. I don't think the timing works out. I will say that I think that the activity that we're going to see initially develop around the evening and into the very early hours of Friday night is more hit or miss, is more scattered in nature. That's the good news. But the bad news is, as Futurecast is showing, it will likely start to develop around this time. So obviously we got our kickoff, our high school football games around 7 o'clock. And the games, still going to be going on around 8, even up to 9 o'clock. And yes, during our high school football games tomorrow evening, we can have showers and thunderstorms developing. Yes, these thunderstorms can delay games. And yes, this is a situation where you don't want to be caught off guard. You want to take the rain gear with you if you're heading out to high school football games tomorrow evening. No guarantee. I do think that it's more scattered in nature. So yes, there can be football games that remain bone dry. But if it's a good idea, if you're heading out, as we'll likely see some showers and thunderstorms developing in this time, it's better safe than sorry. It's that kind of situation, I think, for our Friday night football games. And also, with thunderstorms in the mix, you don't want to get caught off guard in that regard either, is that you want to be prepared to seek shelter if need be, right? With those thunderstorms. And download the Severe Weather Team 9 mobile app. Keep an eye on the radar going throughout Friday evening for those football games. It also is a handy tool because it will give you a heads up. It's not perfect, but it does a really good job of giving you a heads up on rain heading your way, estimating the amount of time before it starts to rain for your location, as well as if lightning is detected near you. So both of those very handy tools to have tomorrow evening. So download the Severe Weather Team 9 mobile app. Make sure it has your location so it can give you those heads up notifications, and of course allow those notifications, right? And it gives you that heads up of rain's heading your way. Here's estimated time. Lightning's detected near you. Both handy to have for Friday evenings, Friday nights football games. After the games, start to end, I think this is when coverage will further pick up. So we go from scattered that evening, early Friday night, and then once we get closer towards midnight, notice what happens. That further increase in coverage likely of these showers, and that rumble of thunder can linger overnight, but we'll start to see more of a shower activity take hold into Saturday morning, and then showers stay with us. Now, yesterday, it looked like this was going to be primarily Saturday morning. The timing got pushed back some. So unfortunately, it does look like we can have some showers stick around for a good portion of our Saturday. Less than ideal. I did think we would dry up by Saturday afternoon, but the timing's changed on us, unfortunately, and we'll be dealing with some showers, I think, going for a lot of the day Saturday. We're probably going to have to wait until more so going into Saturday night, but at least by Sunday, we are still looking dry, and we'll spot some sunshine returning. But again, Saturday can unfortunately be pretty reminiscent of today, where we're dealing with those showers, cloudy skies, 60s, just less than ideal conditions to start the weekend. But by Sunday, we're back to a mix of sun to clouds. It's still cool Sunday. Highs are still struggling to get in the 70s, but at least at that point, it's dry with a mix of sun and clouds. Much more pleasant weather Sunday, but unfortunately Saturday, yeah, it's going to be less than ideal conditions. So for our Friday night football games, again, more hit or miss, but some showers and thunderstorms can easily develop around this time. Friday Night Rivals Game of the Week, Union Local, Indian Creek. You can watch this, and you don't have to worry about rain at this point, from the comfort of your home, live on WTOV9 at 7 o'clock. And don't forget Sports Friday on the go. Don Sloan, Bill Phillips are going to be having, handful, at least, if not more, area games that they'll jump into, looking at highlights, right, of those games live. Highlights of those games as we extend throughout the evening. So if you don't want to, risk getting that downpour or have to dodge thunderstorms, and you still want to watch some high school football action, tune in WTOV9 to see Union Local take on Indian Creek. And if you're curious about other games across the area, tune in to Sports Friday on the go. Don Sloan, Bill Phillips. They'll be live on our YouTube page, I believe on our Facebook page as well. They'll be streaming on our social media pages for Sports Friday on the go. And again, the Friday Night Rivals Game of the Week is live on WTOV9 at 7 o'clock. So a couple ways to still watch some high school football without having to worry about dodging some of that rain going into Friday evening. Now, there is another reason that it's good to be keeping weather aware for Friday evening, because unfortunately, that potential for a severe thunderstorm is there again tomorrow. Now, I know we had this potential for yesterday, and for this edition of Nate at 8, it really didn't touch on it much because I didn't think it would come to fruition. I thought there would be too much cloud cover today. And yeah, there was a lot of cloud cover today, but tomorrow's a bit different setup. So that setup that we had for today was very conditional. We had to have some clearing in our skies following that initial round of rain in the morning, and it just didn't let up. And not only did we have the cloud cover, we even maintained some drizzle at times as well. So it just not the setup today. I was very conditional, and just didn't occur. But tomorrow's a bit different because we are dry leading up into tomorrow evening, and we have some sunshine. I think the big question for tomorrow is if we build enough cloud cover in the afternoon, that can hinder the development of any severe thunderstorms into the evening. If we can still maintain a good amount of sunshine throughout the day, though, then I do think there's at least a little better odds. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, right? I don't think it's a high risk, but a little better odds that we may be dealing with a strong to severe thunderstorm into Friday night. Damaging winds will remain the primary concern. And yes, a tornado, it can't be ruled out, but certainly damaging winds is going to be the primary concern if we do see that severe thunderstorm develop. So we can have some, pretty gusty winds within some of these showers and thunderstorms going into Friday night. Activities still more hit or miss during this time period of the evening, early night, when we do have that window of time for a strong to severe thunderstorm. So just another reason why you want to be keeping weather aware if you're heading out to high school football games. You don't want to get caught off guard with these thunderstorms going into tomorrow evening. In terms of rainfall amounts, just like what we had for today, again, I think they can vary quite a bit. Now, models have been hinting at a bit of a trend of lighter amounts looking towards Tuscarawas, Carroll, Columbiana County, and a bit higher amounts along south of I-70. This is what models have been hitting at, trying to concentrate some of those bands of some heavier rain, looking into locations closer to and south of I-70. And for those locations, a little better odds to at least pick up a half of an inch of rain, while still upwards of about a quarter of an inch of rain, at least a trace to a quarter of an inch of rain is still possible into Tuscarawas, Carroll, Columbiana County. So we could see a bit of that gradient set up across the area where it's a little less into Tuscarawas, Carroll, Columbiana County, and then upwards of a half of an inch then looking towards I-70, south of I-70. Hopefully, we can pick upwards of a half of an inch again across the area, as it would certainly be a blessing. The Wheeling, Ohio County Airport for today, coming up over 4/10 of an inch, shy of half of an inch, but over 4/10 of an inch as what was registered at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. And, certainly a big blessing, that picking that much up that amount of rain at the airport. As again, keep in mind what we had for the entire month of August was less than 6/10. So we've already picked up more than 4/10. We're going to take it. And hopefully we could even surpass what we had for the entire month of August by Saturday. Hopefully. That would be amazing if the airport can pick up another 4/10 of an inch and we get 8/10 by the time this is all said and done by Saturday night. That would be amazing because, again, we didn't even reach 6/10 of an inch. We came up short at 0.58 inches for the entire month of August. So there's potential with after the second round that the airport's already going to surpass what we had for the entire month of August within the first week of September. Great news. But again, once we get past Saturday and we look ahead into Sunday and we dry back up for Sunday, the overall rain threat, once we look ahead into next week, well, let me show you. It drops off and it's gone. It is gone. Not even a slight chance. It looks very dry next week. Very dry. Hopefully we could at least sneak in some rain chances later next week. But as it stands now, this looks to be a very dry pattern that quickly returns by the latter part of this weekend and looks to continue into a lot, possibly all of next week. So yes, this is great to see these rounds of rain here this week, but we are getting right back in and just continuing an overall dry pattern. So it's less than ideal for our high school football games. It's less than ideal start to the weekend to deal with a lot of what we had today, where it's still damp, dreary, cool Saturday. But in reality, we need it. We need it. And again, it's a blessing to get the rain while we can. Drought conditions now are in place across most of the area, and we'll take the rain while we can get it. As we look ahead going into next week, this is just a overall quiet pattern, just continuing. And during the stretch, the temperatures, it's a cool weekend. Those highs, just like what we had for today, they're struggling to get out of the 60s and into the 70s. Now, temperatures, I think, will climb back up by the middle of next week. We're topping off near 80, and we can hover around that 80-degree mark for the middle to latter part of next week. It doesn't look like it's a big warm-up, but a little more seasonable stretch of weather, I think, for the middle to latter part of next week as dry conditions look to just continue as we do extend going through the middle to latter part of next week. So, a little more seasonable stretch, seasonable to below normal. That's what we've seen as of recent. Seasonable to below normal temperatures, not, flipping the pattern to where it's getting hot on us, and certainly not a flip in the pattern where it's wet for a lot of the stretch either. Yes, here today and here again tomorrow night and Saturday, it's wet, but in the large picture, right, the vast majority of this week still dry. And I think the vast majority, maybe all of next week, still dry as well. So in the bigger picture, it still remains seasonable to cool and dry in the large scheme of things. So your 9+1 day forecast, again, tomorrow, more similar to yesterday, back to around 80. So back to a warm afternoon. And the vast majority of the day is dry, but we'll watch around our high school football games are kicking off. We may have to deal with some showers and thunderstorms. It's more hit or miss at that point. But as the night progresses, especially getting closer to 10 o'clock midnight, as going through that first half of the night, coverage is likely going to pick up. So as the games start to wrap up, coverage likely picks up, and we deal with more widespread showers and a thunderstorm overnight Friday. And those showers can be more scattered, but they do look to linger going throughout the day. By Saturday night, then we'll dry back up, and then Sunday dry. And yes, a lot, if not all of next week, is likely dry. Rainfall amounts, just like today, can vary quite a bit. Dan chiming in there says, good evening, Dan. It says had a half-inch in Wellsville. So Joe says barely got anything in Bel Air. Dan says half-inch in Wellsville, and that variance could be with us again on Friday night to Saturday. Now, for the majority of us, we can still range upwards of a quarter to a half of an inch for a lot of us. But again, not all of us, right? Especially with the potential for thunderstorms in the mix, you're going to have higher amounts locally where we do see any thunderstorms develop. And yes, that even some locations can still be more on the order of a trace to a quarter of an inch. So it can still vary some, but a lot of us can still get in that range of about a quarter to a half of an inch, similar to what we had for today. Across the area. Austin says, is there any chances for us to reach 90 degrees or high this month? And Austin, not here near term. This pattern still looks pretty cool and dry, at least going into the middle of the month, possibly the latter part of the month. Maybe it gets harder and harder this time of the year to reach 90, but we'll see. We will see if we could sneak in at least one more hot day, maybe at least one day where we get back closer to 90. But at least here near term, just doesn't look to happen. It's just no flipping the pattern here near term where it's going to get hot and wet on us. So a lot of the same. It looks to continue. A lot of the same here near term. And then, Mark Joe just mentioning, I appreciate all of you for tuning in, as always. I appreciate it. Austin's asking about the game tonight, and we're going to be watching that for the weather as well. Certainly some rain threatening that game, and hopefully not to too many delays when it comes to some thunderstorms that are possible there in Philadelphia. But Austin's asking, who are you rooting for the start of the NFL season? Philadelphia Eagles or Dallas Cowboys? My mom is a massive Dallas Cowboys fan, Austin saying, and I will be rooting for the Dallas Cowboys, Austin. And I grew up with my dad being a big Cowboys fan. I've fallen in his footsteps. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I am not afraid to admit that the Cowboys are not the best. I'm not the type of Dallas fan that just thinks that Dallas is amazing every year, because I don't. I am not that kind of Dallas Cowboys fan, but yes, I will be rooting for Dallas. Do I think they're going to win tonight? No, I don't. But I always feel like Dallas, for some reason, they come out and they always seem to play. I mean, from what I can recall, they always seem to play pretty good that first game. And then it's like, oh, there's, but you just have to like taper expectations, because then after that, it just starts to go bad. But so I don't know. That being said, I don't think they're going to win, but maybe they'll at least keep the score somewhat close. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Joe says 7-0 Dallas. So is Dallas up 7-0? Is that what that is, Joe? That's surprising. Hey, maybe like I said, maybe they'll at least make it close. Like I said, I don't know why, but this seems like that first game of the season, Dallas, they play pretty well, and then the rest of the season they can never match how they initially did. Dave says 1.13 inches in Brilliant. And Joe says yes. So 7-0 Dallas. How about that? So thank you for report there, Joe. Dave says 1.13 inches in Brilliant. So Dave even picking up over an inch. So we did have radar estimated again. Some locations, we'll see how high the numbers get. Some locations radar estimated even over an inch and a half. We'll start to see. I'm sure we'll have. Thank you all for chiming in those reports. I really appreciate it. make sure to include them here tonight. But I'm sure we're going to start to see some more reports filing in throughout the evening. So I'll compile some of those actual measurements, and then I'll have it coming up News 9 at 10 on Fox 9 News 9 tonight at 11. So we'll take a deeper dive into those rainfall amounts across the area. And I'll come up with that list, and I'll post them on my social as well. Nathan Shutt News 9 and Shut WTOV, in case you can't make it to the news tonight. We'll post some of those actual measured amounts across the area for today. I appreciate it as always. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Nate at 8. Again, coming up News 9 at 10 on Fox 9 News 9 tonight at 11. We do not have edition of Nate at 8 tomorrow with our high school football. But of course, again, keep weather aware for those high school football games. And I will be off actually for your Friday as well as next week. So don't worry, I'm going to come back for that following week, but I will not be here for a little over a week going on vacation. So I appreciate all of you for tuning into these editions of Nate at 8, and I'll see you back here. Let's see, we get the date on. So our next edition of Nate at 8 will be coming up on, let's see, that following week is Monday the 15th. The 15th. So I will be back then for that next edition of 8 at 8. Until then, make sure to stay tuned with Chief Meteorologist Jeff Exline, of course, for the latest in the mornings, as well as severe weather TNI meteorologist Emma Keegan. She'll be filling in a lot for me, so make sure to stay tuned. She'll be here tomorrow to keep you guys updated going throughout the evening for those high school football games. So make sure to stay tuned with her for the latest, into that following week as well. And I believe Brian Ivy is coming in at least one day into next week as well. So Brian will give you guys, a meteorologist, Brian Ivy, will give you an update as well into next week. So make sure to stay tuned with them for the latest. Again, appreciate it as always. Have a wonderful night. I hope you have a great weekend as well. And I'll see all of you for that following edition of Nate at 8. Take care.